Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom, I'm David Mensa, Israeli government spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Office of the Prime Minister. Questions in the chat, please, and we'll take a few after a very quick update from me. It's Tuesday, the 24th of September, day 354 of the October 7th war. Let me start with a reminder of Israel's war aims. They are the return of all of our hostages, 101 of them. They are children, they are the elderly, they are women and men. Every moment of their captivity is a crime against humanity. They need to be released immediately, right now. They are the dismantling of Hamas's government and military and the removal of the terrorist threat to Israel, and of course the return of our citizens safely to their homes in our own sovereign territory here in the north of Israel. So let me start with an update from Israel's north. You know, since the day after the October 7th massacre, Israel has been bombarded with rocket fire, missile fire and drone, the terrorist organization. And let me remind you that Hezbollah's stated objective is the destruction of this country, the destruction of Israel. That is Hezbollah's stated objective. They've launched over 9,100 rockets at Israel. These rockets and drones have killed 48 people here in Israel. 12 Israeli Druze children murdered on a football pitch. I saw it with my very own eyes in Majd al-Shams. More than 325 Israelis wounded. 190 million square meters of our country burnt. And 63,500 Israelis evacuated. Businesses and the education of our children massively disrupted. Our towns, cities, kibbutzim, farms and villages in the north bombarded with rockets and drones. Some of these kibbutzim have been completely destroyed. Family homes destroyed, farms devastated, livestock murdered. This is not a sustainable reality. In the last 24 hours, Israel has attacked 1,600 terror targets in Lebanon. By phone call, by radio broadcasts, by websites and text messages, the IDF has urged civilians to move out of harm's way. The images prove that Hezbollah are hiding arms caches inside civilian homes. We see secondary explosions of Hezbollah weapon stockpiles, of munitions, of long-range cruise missiles, of drones, rocket launchers, thousands of them, all located in the heart of civilian populations inside Lebanon, all of them prepared for immediate launch against Israel. That constitutes a double war crime. Hezbollah endangering Lebanese civilians, using them as human shields to hide its weaponry, and carrying out attacks directed at Israelis. I remind you, Lebanon has no territorial claims against Israel. The border between our two countries is precisely where the UN asked for it to be. The State of Israel maintains that Lebanon and Hezbollah, the terror organization which operate under the guidance of Iran, are responsible for this escalation of the security situation, and they are in violation of international law and the UN Security Council resolutions 1559 and 1701. Next, an update from COGAT and their work coordinating aid into Gaza. As of the latest COGAT figures, more than 1,034,000 tons of humanitarian aid have been delivered into Gaza on 52,500 trucks since the start of this war. 80% of the aid going in has been food. Also, COGAT has facilitated the establishment of the 13th field hospital in Gaza. The hospital run by MSF is in Deir al-Balah. COGAT secured the entry of the medical teams and the delivery of all the medical equipment needed for the hospital. It's expected to expand from an initial capacity of 20 beds to a capacity of 110 beds, which will also include an emergency room, a maternity ward, and a surgical ward. COGAT will continue to facilitate humanitarian responses for the residents of Gaza, particularly with regard to their medical needs. You can get all these details and more from on Israel's humanitarian efforts on COGAT's website. So that's the end of our briefing from me here today. We'll now take your questions, which you should put in the chat together with your news outlet. First question here I can see is from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Firstly, Prime Minister spoke directly to Lebanese people. Do you have a sense of how his message was received? Thank you for that question, Joel. Let me share with you what the Prime Minister said to the people of Lebanon. Firstly, he made clear that our action is against Hezbollah and not against the Lebanese people. The Prime Minister declared very clearly that our stated position is that whoever does not understand this needs to get this right now, is that Israel is not waiting for the threat. We are preempting it, as the Prime Minister has said. Everywhere, in every sector, constantly, Israel is eliminating senior Hezbollah figures, terrorists, and missiles, and our action to defend Israel in our north is ongoing. The Prime Minister has made clear that whoever tries to harm us, we will harm them all the more forcefully. The Prime Minister spoke about Israel's objective to change the security balance, the balance of forces in our north, and this is precisely what we are doing. We are destroying thousands of missiles and rockets that are directed at our cities here in Israel and our citizens. The Prime Minister said that together we will stand strong, together we will fight, and with God's help, together we will win. In terms of how it was received, I guess that's probably a question for the people of Lebanon. We would say that when it comes to the civilians in Lebanon, the Prime Minister's also made a dramatic appeal to them to tell them that our clear objective is to avoid, wherever possible, harm to Lebanese civilians. Israel's message, as the Prime Minister's made clear to the people of Lebanon, is that Israel's war is not with the people of Lebanon, it is with the terrorist organization of Hezbollah. The Prime Minister said that for too long, Hezbollah has been using the Lebanese as human shields. It's placed these rockets in Lebanese living rooms and missiles in their garages, in their homes. And now these rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, as I've said, directly at our people here. So to defend ourselves against Hezbollah strikes, we must take out these weapons. Through every means, the IDF has warned the Lebanese people to get out of harm's way. As the Prime Minister said, Lebanon should take this warning extremely seriously and not let Hezbollah endanger Lebanese lives and the lives of their loved ones. Please do not let Hezbollah endanger your country anymore. Many have heeded Israel's request to get out of harm's way now, and the Prime Minister has also made clear that once our operation is over, they will be able to return to the safely to their homes. Next question here from Joel Pollack at Breitbart is, what would be the most helpful way for the United States to respond? Let me address that question this way, Joel. The US and Israel stand side by side in battling the terrorist forces that we're battling right now. Our relationship is ironclad, as the Secretary of State and the President have made. President of the US have made clear, and it's a relationship which we very much appreciate here in Israel. Some of these Hezbollah leaders that we have eliminated have American blood on their hands. They have the blood of US Marines from the 1980s on their hands, 250 US Marines, also French soldiers as well. So I think that if you want to ask for US reaction, then it's probably best to ask the US themselves. But I will tell you that Hezbollah are a terrorist organization. Their stated aim is to destroy this country. They're under the guidance of Iran, and Israel has a duty to defend itself. Next question is from Hannah Julian, Jewish Press, is there any update on the Prime Minister's schedule for his trip to New York for the UN General Assembly? Thank you for that question, Hannah. Yes, indeed, the Prime Minister still does plan to go to the US, to the United Nations in New York to address the United Nations General Assembly. We will update you on the schedule a little bit closer to when it is due to take place. Next question is from Sarah from Jewish Outlet of Rome, Italy. How does the Lebanon escalation impact ceasefire talks, considering Hezbollah had claimed that their attacks to be directly linked to Gaza? That's a good question, Sarah, because there's been lots of talk about this, and I've heard this on the international media about linking Hezbollah themselves, linking a ceasefire arrangement in Gaza with them ceasing fire. Let me just remind you something that I think hasn't been covered. Just a reminder that for most Palestinians, indeed almost all Palestinians inside Lebanon, they have never, ever been granted Lebanese citizenship under Lebanese law. So for all this concern about Hezbollah fighting, shooting rockets at us to in some way support the Palestinian cause, let's put that to bed straight away. That is a nonsense. You know, thanks to Lebanon, 76 years on, these Palestinians remain stateless. The Palestinians inside Lebanon. This includes 76 years on. This includes many who arrived from what is now Israel as early as 1948 during the Arab-Israeli War and their descendants. So let's get rid of that facade of an excuse. We know that for this axis, for this Iranian axis of terror, it is the same for the Houthis, the same for Hezbollah, the same for Hamas. It's a pathological Israel hatred. That's why they hate us. That's why they are firing rockets against us. That's why they have terror against us. They want to destroy this country. When they say it with their own mouths, when they say it, we believe it. Maybe some in the international community don't take them seriously. Thousands of years of experience, of the Jewish experience, has taught us very clearly that when groups or individuals or dictators or the mullahs in Iran, the leaders of Iran or the leaders of Hezbollah and the leaders of Hamas, when they say they wish to wipe this country off the face of the earth, we believe them. We believe that that is exactly what they plan to do. So we have a duty to defend ourselves. When it comes to negotiations with Hamas, the negotiations for a hostage release deal continue. They're based on the principles presented by the United States in a manner that will enable the return of our hostages while achieving the other goals of this war. And Israel very much appreciates the efforts by the US and the mediators to dissuade Hamas from its refusal. Again and again and again, it's been Hamas which have walked away. They've never been serious about these negotiations, because they would have been serious. We would have had a deal many, many, many months ago. You know, we're coming up to a year now that Hamas took our hostages. And it is a breach of humanitarian law that they continue to be held to this very day. And Israel will do everything in its power through negotiations or militarily to get them out. Next question about flights from Sarah from Italian news in Rome, Italian Jewish news in Rome. Many flights to Israel are being rerouted. How is the government helping Israelis abroad return and Israelis who need and have other needs? Thank you for that question, Sarah. I would encourage you to look at Israel's Ministry of Transportation to get more on that particular issue. There have been reports of El Al laying on, Israel's national airline, laying on additional flights from other regional hubs to be able to get home here to Israel. Next question here is from Deborah Haynes from Sky News. Is a ground operation into Lebanon inevitable, or will that only happen should Hezbollah escalate its attacks above a certain threshold, such as striking Tel Aviv? And a second question, is it correct that leaflets being dropped by Israel in the Bekaa Valley have barcodes on them that would take information from whatever device is used to scan them, as claimed by Hezbollah? Thank you for that question, Deborah. So just a reminder that Hezbollah are a genocidal terrorist organization. They're considered a terrorist organization in the UK as well, Sky's home. I know that British media have a problem calling Hezbollah a terrorist organization, but that is precisely what they are. Jew hatred is written into their very DNA. Their leader, Hassan Nasrallah, says it every time he makes a speech. He wishes to wipe this country, the only homeland for the Jewish people, off the face of the earth. That is why they are firing rockets at us, for no other reason. The Prime Minister has made abundantly clear precisely why we are fighting this war. He said that it's an action against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Our position is that Israel is not waiting any longer after 11 and a half months for this threat. We are preempting it everywhere, in every sector, constantly. Israel is eliminating these senior Hezbollah terrorist figures and their missiles as well, and it's an action to defend this country in our north, and it is ongoing. The Prime Minister has also made clear, and for this he has the backing of the entire 9 or 10 million people living here, that whoever tries to harm this country, we will harm them all the more forcefully. Now, it's our objective here in Israel to change the security balance, the balance of forces in our north, and this is precisely what we are doing. We are destroying thousands of missiles and rockets that are directed at Israel's cities and citizens. And the Prime Minister has been very, very clear that our objective is to get our people back home. There are UN resolutions extremely clear on this point, 1559 and 1701. Hezbollah need to move behind the Litani River. We need to get our people to be home safely in their homes. It's almost a year. It's almost impossible to imagine. I encourage your Sky viewers to imagine what it would be like to be essentially evicted from your home, in our own sovereign territory, to be evicted from your home for their own safety. This is not a sustainable reality. Israel's patience is not inexhaustible. We will secure our northern border, and our people will be allowed to get home. That is the mandate which Israel's people has given this government, and it is a mandate which it takes extremely seriously, as all other responsible governments take seriously their primary duty to defend our own citizens. That is precisely what we will do. Next question is from Jim Williams from Zenga International News. This morning in an MSNBC interview, Jake Sullivan mentioned that a key reason for the absence of a hostage deal is the lack of involvement from Hamas leader Sinwar through his Qatari contacts since the discovery of the hostage bodies last month. Is this consistent with the Prime Minister's information? Sullivan also mentioned that the US has sent additional military firepower to the region to prevent the conflict from Hezbollah from escalating into a regional war. Does this align with the Prime Minister's perspective on the substantial US military presence in the region supporting Israel? Thank you for that question, Jim. The Prime Minister has made clear, and this is again, as you say, reiterated by Jake Sullivan and others in the US administration, that it is Hamas again and again that has walked away from this deal. Again and again, they always walk away from the deal because human life is unimportant to them. Indeed, they're prepared, Hamas are prepared to fight to the last Gazan, and not to the last Hamas fighter, to the last Gazan. They're sacrificing their own people, and they're murdering our people as well. The government has made clear that it wishes for a deal to happen. They have Again and again, the Prime Minister's made clear that we're willing to go the extra mile to get a deal, to get our people home, but it has been Hamas that every time has walked away, and that's just been reiterated by what you say that Jake Sullivan has said. When it comes to Lebanon, we're appreciative of the support of the US administration. Hezbollah are an Iranian proxy. They're the enemy of the US as well. We're fighting for our own survival here. Let's be under no illusions. This country is fighting for its very survival. We're being surrounded by an axis of evil led by Iran, but this country will defend itself, and this country will be successful. Okay, next question. Just scroll down to the next question, if you could. Okay, Fred Ager, former Israel's national security advisor, believes that Israel must remove Hezbollah from South Lebanon by ground operation, and that remote actions no longer suffice. Any ground operation is any ground operation on the horizon? Thank you for that question, Fred. Look, you won't be surprised if I don't talk about that issue with you here today. Our primary responsibility of this government is to defend its people, and we will do that lawfully, always complying with international law. We will do it lawfully, but this country will be defended. We will always prefer a diplomatic resolution, but for 11.5 months now, Hezbollah have refused one. The Lebanese government are unfortunately unable to put any pressure whatsoever on Hezbollah, and this Iranian axis of evil that has formed a stranglehold around Israel. It's a ring of armed terror organizations from Hezbollah in Lebanon to Hamas in Gaza to the Houthis in Yemen and other militias. We're even getting rockets from and missiles from Iraq as well. We're on extremely high alert, and we will exact a heavy price for any aggression against this country from any arena. Okay, my friends, that looks like the last question here today. Thank you for joining us. We will have another briefing this time tomorrow. In the meantime, do please stay safe, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.